Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video we're taking a look at the new Prime Whitebeard and taking him into some content over here on OPTC, taking a look at his captain ability, his special ability, and how this character operates. So with the release of the In Their Prime Sugo Fest, we did get a young Whitebeard, or a Prime Whitebeard, with his crew. He is a super tandem legend, and he does work very, very well if you do use the Whitebeard Pirates. However, his kit is left to be a little bit desired. He has that kind of Big Mom effect where he does a lot of end of turn damage, but doesn't have any cooldowns. Now, initially when V1 Kaido first came out, like, this mechanic was absolutely insane. Normal attacks only wasn't ever a thing, and just being able to do 400 times your attack as end of turn damage at the end of every single turn seems incredibly broken, right? However, if your captain doesn't have cooldowns, it can be a little bit tricky to actually team build for, because stalling is basically just non-existent. Now, I think I've cracked the code with Whitebeard, and the code is pretty much the code to the rest of the game as well, is the hybrid meta. Running Whitebeard with a friend captain that isn't another Whitebeard is most likely going to be the way that this guy sees play, or as a sailor. Now, when Whitebeard gets cooldowns, depending on what you're running, he's going to be an absolute monster. He has a very good special. He works amazingly with hybrid Yamato. And strikers are up there, probably the two best classes in the game at the moment. So, like, Whitebeard can do some really, really cool things. The big downside to the unit, as I mentioned, is when you're below 50% HP, he does 400 times his attack as end of turn damage. And when you're above 50% HP, he does like 200 times, which means that stage 1 and stage 2 are always going to get absolutely slobber knocked, no matter what happens. So you really need a way to get cooldowns, so that way you don't have to worry about stalling. Now, the first clip, as you guys see here, we're actually taking on Colli Morley, and I'm using Super Tandem Kid. Super Tandem Kid, I feel like, is going to be like Whitebeard's best friend. Not only does Kid give crazy amounts of cooldowns to strikers at the start of the quest, but he actually reduces your HP over time. Whitebeard will give you a 50% HP cut at the start of the quest, then you can use something like the Moby Dick to get even further. And if you are running two Whitebeards, it's very, very easy to get below 30% to activate his super class. But if you're below 50%, you actually get his massive 5.5 times captain ability. With Kid, you lose HP every single turn, and it's very easy to stay under 50% HP without being too low. When it comes to low HP captains, obviously the big risk of the character is that when you're at low HP, you're at a higher risk of dying. The thing with Whitebeard is, yes, he does end of turn damage, which is great if there is no normal attacks only, and yes, he has a big multiplier at 5.5 when you're below 50%, but he doesn't give cooldowns to help with that end of turn damage, and he doesn't give any damage reduction to help when you are at low HP. So you got to be a little bit careful when you use this guy, but there are some very good hybrid captains that do help him out significantly, and Kid, I think, is probably going to be the best of the batch. On to the next fight. Alright, so moving on to the second clip, we're taking on Ashura arena, utilizing Queen as our friend captain. Now, King and Queen are another very, very good options for Whitebeard, as Whitebeard is not only just a striker booster, but he's actually a powerhouse booster. And with King and Queen, they both boost powerhouse class, and powerhouses, they're not exactly like the be-all or end-all, but they're definitely still very, very powerful. And hybriding the two of these units up can work very nicely because of King and Queen's auto trigger with getting the extra specials, and namely getting the extra cooldown. So using Whitebeard alongside Queen for Ashura will work very, very well. You could probably use King as well, but like, just Queen is just better than King in my opinion. And with the two of these two units put together, you can actually just run any Dex color as well. Whitebeard and Queen both boost the Dex color, and that's another upside to Whitebeard being the 2-class and 1-color meta. Means that you can just have a lot more freedom when team building. As you can see, we are using Treasure Map Shanks on this particular team, a very like left field unit for this particular squad. And the reason we can do that is because both King and Queen actually, well, not King, Queen and Whitebeard both boost Dex. So the end of turn damage works amazingly well when you do come up against resilience enemies. And it's a big reason why I wanted to come into Ashura, because there is a lot of resilience here. Kind of the only upside to this mechanic when there is stuff like normal attacks only floating around and you don't have the cooldowns. So that's where he's going to shine as well. Obviously, like I said, if you go into a content that gives cooldowns like Dofi 2 or Revolution Army 2, or even like Grand Voyage and stuff like that, you'll be able to do some pretty cool stuff with him as long as you can play around with that low HP multiplier. Because that, like I said, below 50%, he is at 5.5, which is very, very powerful. His special, though, his special gives a 2.75 times orb boost to Powerhouse Strikers and Dex. And if you already have an orb boost, he's actually an attack booster for the squad. If your HP is above 50%, he gives a 70% damage reduction, which works amazingly with versus Yamato. But if you're below 50%, he gives 95% damage reduction, and he increases your attack and orb boost by 0.25, which includes the orb boost or the attack boost that he gives. So you can do some really, really powerful stuff with his special. And like I said, if you're using versus Yamato, getting that damage reduction is very valuable. The damage reduction is great when you need it, because you can actually utilize it to tank a lot of shots. And if you are running some like hybrid stuff with versus Yamato, you can use her versatility to also get the damage reduction to stay below the 50% and not actually die. But I would have much rather have seen some sort of damage reduction in Whitebeard's captain ability. I think not having the cooldowns is one thing, but not having damage reduction as well is just like, it's a big L for the unit and makes him very janky to use and very odd in terms of where he will actually be used. He does have a super class that does 500 times his attack in damage to all enemies. Now, this is going to be really, really good for stuff like Treasure Map, because you can just like wave clear there. But anywhere else, like, I just don't see this being great. It does extend the orb boost by 2 turns, which can be kind of nice, I guess. But I don't really see too many areas where that extra like 2 turns of an orb boost or carrying that into the next stage is going to be viable, especially when the enemy can just blow away your positive effects anyway. But when you do see resilience on the enemy, you can use Whitebeard quite well, provided you can hybrid him up with a captain that's going to give him cooldowns. On to the final fight. And the final fight is against Garb's Challenge Revolutionary Army 2, the 13-star event. And this isn't a particular area where Whitebeard actually gets cooldowns. When Whitebeard gets cooldowns, you can obviously hybrid him up with some other very, very cool captains. And for this particular fight, we are using versus Yamato. But don't stress, I know this is a showcase video, so I did include my own Whitebeard on the team, so that way we are running 2 Whitebeards. It's just like, running 2 Captain Whitebeards just has no benefit to the squad. And if you are ever going to run like a double Whitebeard situation, I feel like this is going to be the best like situation, where you do have Whitebeard as a sailor and then Whitebeard as a friend captain if you do need that end of turn damage for whatever reason. Versus Yamato is going to be Whitebeard's best friend when it comes to cooldown related content. If we're doing stuff like Super Boss Kazuna or 10-star Kazunas, Treasure Map, Grand Voyage, anything like that, like these Garbs challenges where you actually get your cooldowns at the start, versus Yamato and Whitebeard are going to be like 2 peas in a pod. Getting the attack boost from Yamato for strikers, the orb boost from Whitebeard for strikers, increasing that to a 3.25 and a 3 times attack and orb boost, getting the 90% damage reduction, then having Yamato's extra damage reduction buff, turning that into a 1.9 times extra damage. Like, Wano orbs, tandem, versabilities, super tandem mechanics, like, you're going to be able to do a lot with these 2 units in terms of damage output. And for the Dex Striker team, these 2 are going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with. Yamato also has Despair Removal in her kit, so I feel like she's just a much better captain than Whitebeard. Even though Whitebeard does have that superclass to make Strikers superclass, I feel like just having Yamato and then bringing your own Whitebeard is it's just going to work so much nicer. But nevertheless, the combination of the 2 is incredibly powerful, and putting together a mono striker team nowadays is fairly easy. Strikers, like I said, they've quickly rose to the top with the release of, or basically from the start of like Super Tandem Kaido. They started having quite a large resurgence, and they now have stuff like Nami and this versus Yamato with this Whitebeard as well. Like, strikers just have an absolute plethora of very, very powerful characters. However, they do still need a little bit more rounding out when it comes to utility, as their utility options aren't exactly the best. They're up there, but like when you compare like strikers to free spirits, it's like comparing chalk and cheese, you know? So it's a little bit of a shame there, but that just goes for every other class in the game, because free spirit is just miles above everything else. Nevertheless, putting together this team for Revolutionary Army 2 wasn't too challenging. It's not a no-stall team or anything like that, because I also wanted to showcase the power of Whitebeard and that end-of-turn damage. I do think that, like, whilst they tried to make Whitebeard sort of like this, like, no-stalling, super speedy captain, they completely overlooked the fact that he's got no cooldowns, which then just totally makes him redundant in most pieces of content when you just can't get your specials. Like, if you can get to the final stage super, super fast, that's great with all that wave clearing mechanic, with all those wave clearing mechanics. But as soon as you get there, like, there's normal attacks only, and you don't have any of your specials to deal with, like Bind, Despair, Paralysis, Special Bind, all those very nasty debuffs that the game will throw at you. It's just going to mean absolutely diddly squad. So, hopefully they do something in the future, or they might release something where Whitebeard can shine. They might release some sort of content where Whitebeard is just very, very good for. And obviously in the point event for the 30 stamina, where he does get cooldowns as well. You can actually use him there, and even for the 40 stamina too. But all in all, I was thoroughly disappointed in this unit. When I first read his kit, I was kind of like, yo, this is really cool. This unit's really, really powerful. This unit's really, really great. But then the more I read him, the more things started to sink in with being a low HP captain, no damage reduction, speeding through with wave clear but no cooldowns, and being on a 15-turn cooldown. Whitebeard, without level limit break or limit break expansion, is on a 15-turn cooldown. Now, that is just absurd. Even with cooldowns, that is just absolutely absurd. So, trying to get this man special ready when you don't have cooldowns is just an absolute pain in the ass. However, he is a Super Tandem unit, and Super Tandems automatically have an edge over pretty much every other character that doesn't have Super Tandem. However, I haven't included it in this video because it's absolute dog shit. Like, it's a really, really bad Super Tandem mechanic. You need 2 of the Whitebeard pirates on the crew, and then you need to hit with Whitebeard. That includes stuff like Whitey Bay, Jozu, I think Ace is there, Cat Viper, Dogstorm, Ezo. Like those types of units also are included. But his Super Tandem basically gives Powerhouse and Striker units a 1.75 times attack boost, and then gives the enemy 1.5 times increased damage taken. And you can use this every single turn, just like Super Tandem Luffy. But Super Tandem Luffy gives a 2.5 times attack boost to free spirit characters, and to me, that's just infinitely better. The 1.5 times extra damage doesn't go through full immunity, so most of the time you're not really going to see that too much. And once you get to the final stage anyway, there's no way you're using this over versus Yamato or using it over something like Super Tandem Nami. So whilst he does have a Super Tandem, it just missed the mark completely of what this unit needs to do. For a Prime Whitebeard in 2023, like, this guy just ain't it, man. Like, this guy ain't it. The Kazuna Rariku Whitebeard, I'm running that guy like 9 times out of 10 if you're comparing the pair between this unit and that unit. But like I said, hopefully they release something and you can do some really, really cool stuff with Whitebeard. Like, he does have potential for strikers and dex teams, but it's a bit of a shame that we're talking badly about one of the most powerful characters in all of One Piece. But that's going to wrap up the video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the unit in the comment section below. While you're down there, don't forget to belt the like button for me. If you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. But most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.